Hey there, good morning. It is 9:59 a.m. It is, I think it's November 7th. It's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. So a lot of people look forward to this day. I remember when I was working, it depends. There are times where I actually looked forward to Monday, if I really like my job. And then, of course, all the bullying would soon ensue. And then I'd start like really looking forward to Fridays. I like keeping myself busy and I try to, maintain a work-life balance. And a lot of that has to do with, what goes on in the office because, we live in a time where people can be very intrusive and kind of, step over into your personal life, like what they did with mine. So earlier this morning, so there's times I think it's a psychic thing, okay? And it's part of my gifts. And this is how sometimes I get downloads, like right when I wake up in the morning with a thought in my head, almost as if like an angel is whispering it into my ear or whatever, and fills me in on what's going on. So, today I woke up with this message, and my big concern is that, I've been talking a lot like employment injustices, emergency services, things relating to the medical system, which to me are very serious issues, okay? And I feel like the message that was coming to my mind is that it seems as though people are more interested in me being, and who me and my interest in Vladimir Putin. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure that's pretty very interesting, right? But at the same time, it's like, okay, people need to focus on these issues, and I want to know what's being done to fix these issues, because no one should have to live in this sort of society or live in fear or worry or because I'm aware that that's going on. Okay, I truly do believe that it is, and these issues need to be resolved as soon as possible. Now, this morning I just realized that there was some sort of email in my inbox, and I realized that it was the community partnership person, her Alyssa. I did refer to her in my newsletter just recently. I do believe that she was a part of the so-called Christian attack, as well as she was somebody who was trying to tempt me and create problems for me because she was somebody who felt as though I needed to be challenged on my personal beliefs and my lifestyle. She did offer another payment plan with PG&E. And see, the thing is that I find the whole situation offensive because I would have never needed the services from CPAC had I not been trafficked. Okay, so when we think about this, I completed the application before. I had already submitted it to her, and then they cleared the balance. Okay, and then I was not receiving any income. I finally started receiving income, and unfortunately missed a payment, and therefore they decided to take me off of the program and then reverse the balance. Okay, so and now she's coming back, and all of this is because people understand now that they were wrong. Okay, at this point, I'm gonna sit back and kind of like put this on the back burner, this whole application with CPAC, because the way that because after that, I had talked to my son, and we renegotiated repaying the balance with PG&E on a payment plan. So far, I think we're doing pretty good on it, but I do this particular offer that CPAC is offering is a reduction of $1,000 off the bill. Okay, like I said, I had talked about getting compensation for these issues before. Okay, and it's like I always feel as though these people offer me like half-ass type, compensation, because it's always like some sort of like twist or some sort of like, well, I'm going to give you, okay, fine, I'll fix it. But I'm going to do this, right? To just try to, because in some way they want to get their little ding into it. Okay. So the way I feel about working with Alyssa, I am not enthusiastic about working with Alyssa. I would prefer her have never reached out to me. If CPAC wanted to reach out to me, the most appropriate thing would have to do would have assigned me to another representative. Okay, there are certain people that at this point I want nothing to do with. I do not want to see. Why? Because people need to understand that human trafficking, labor trafficking, as well as the community harassment that was, distributed among the community, is something that should not be tolerated. Anything that relates to genocide, some sort of abuse, any sort of thing that's going to prevent you from getting services and stuff like this means that somebody actively was pursuing to end your life. So why in the world would I want to ever have anything to do with Alyssa or any sort of reminder of people that I used to know, whether that's directly or indirectly? Okay, so this is what I'm saying. People need to understand how to handle sensitive issues. They need to know how to handle such sensitive issues. And I do not believe that their attempts are adequate. Okay, cutting off $1,000 off the bill really to me is like saying, well, okay, I'll do my part because you have a hand in it. I don't have a hand in it. It's all their fault. All of it. Okay? So, today I woke up and I kept thinking, okay, I was going to call my credit card company to see what's going on with that. So I haven't done that. But I kept thinking, okay, today I remember, okay, today was the 7th, right? So I did call my food stamp place to see, are they going to issue the food stamps? And then they said something about check out some government website or whatever. And I was like, okay, I think I logged onto the regular website for the CalFresh, right? And so it didn't say anything really, didn't give me information, but basically saying they weren't distributing or that the SNAP benefits are on hold. Okay. Now, when you are a victim of human trafficking, you have every right to be suspicious of anybody that you encounter. Okay. And like I said, I do believe that there was some sort of orchestration of trying to bully certain kinds of people. People were being targeted in this country based on their lifestyle. Okay. Having a good lifestyle would get you targeted. Okay. And I do believe that a lot of these Christian women are behind it, or these so-called over obese Christian women are behind it. So who's to say how they could manipulate other people's individual accounts? Like, for example, they could be saying, okay, we're cutting off Snap for some people, but we're going to configure other people's accounts to do this, and this. Okay. And I'm not saying that it is or it isn't, because I haven't done any deep meditation to find out if that's going on or not. But unfortunately, when you are a victim of human trafficking, you have to be open to these sort of kind of the possibility of this kind of fraud happening, especially when you're dealing with something that is widespread. Okay, now it could very well be that the government really did shut down and it's not funding anything. Okay, but then again, it could not be. Okay, at this point, I do not believe anything. I don't believe anything that I do not. That's one of the reasons why I do not watch the news. Okay, I don't believe anything. Okay, if you are a victim of human trafficking, I will tell you, public officials or certain people will work on behalf of these people because sometimes they will put bugs in their ear because they make it a church issue. Okay, so I understand how these things work. And remember, I'm somebody who has been a researcher in social issues for over 30 years. And yes, people, I take my research seriously. And this is one of the things that stimulated me, interests me. You know what I mean? So, when it comes to this issue of people and their so called public apologies, when you are a human target, a victim of human traffic, look for the little, what's the word? The slight in their offers. Okay. I feel as though offering me $1,000 to pay off the balance is a slight to me. Okay. I feel like it's like, it's another little slap in the face or like a half ass effort or in some way trying to imply that I'm responsible for it. No, I'm not responsible for it. This is the group that these people belonged in. And do I believe that Alyssa is associated with people like Alita? And as a matter of fact, I get some sort of intuitive message that my son may even know who Alyssa is. Okay, so these people all know each other in some way. Okay, and I do believe 949 was associated with Alyssa and all these other people. And like I said, I feel as though your offers are always half-assed and really not really designed to show your full accountability. And yes, it is your full accountability. No one asked to be a part of your network. No one asked to be bounced around. No one asked to be taken out of employment. No one asked people to enforce their lifestyle or try to force and bully, menticide a person into a particular lifestyle. I have the right to live my life the way I want to. And you continually messed up my employment, prevented me from gaining employment, and did all kinds of things to try to psychologically damage me, okay, financially ruin me. And then on top of it, you're going to sit here and offer me some half-ass offer. Okay, and then because this is your way in some subtle way. Okay, I feel as though like it's your way of saying, well, we are both responsible for this. We are not. This is not a dual responsibility. Okay, you are fully responsible for it. Okay, uh, that was an issue that came to my mind. Like people aren't, I understand people are not really engaged in, doing things. They get by, and I understand that. That's most of that is human nature, okay? But we have to face this issue, and people who are interested, who do care, okay, should be taking heed. So things need to get repaired in things like the emergency system. And the intuitive message I'm getting is that everyone knows I have zero relationships, okay? Like I don't want to have a relationship. And so just because I don't want to have a relationship, why? That doesn't mean that that people shouldn't take interest or apply, you know, or take concern in public safety. You know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, what this goes all the way down to, my complaints and concerns about, the issue of the Christianity BS, okay? Because, like I said, these people are associated with cloning facilities, and then they create all these problems, and then, you find yourself, getting sucked into their system. You know what I mean? As an adult, I honestly can tell you that these people are indeed the demonic forces that make up hell on earth. Okay, and I truly believe that. Okay, anyway, so the other message I was thinking about today was is that I understand CB's name has been vindicated and now respected in all churches. Okay, and it is the church. This is not about pointing blame, but it is the church that has created so many problems for people like me. You know, we are who we are. You know what I mean? And I feel as though what they wanted me to do, I want to serve the divine. Okay, I do not want to serve the church. And see, that was the issue. And I think that's part of the issue of why the Masonic people have always kind of been like downplayed this in symbolism with a little or like doing these kind of things, because they knew the secret. The secret was is that I was truly the, what do you call it, the chosen one, right? The chosen one. And whereas people in the churches were presenting something else. So the Masonic people had the truth, whereas the other people were in ignorance. They did not know. They were living in blindness. Now people know. Okay, so that's how it is. So I never got along with the church. I never got along with the church. Okay, and I'm saying I want peace with the church, and obviously because the church has vindicated my name, I'm very grateful for that. Okay, now we have the remnant, the adherents. Okay, people who have gone to these institutions and have been brainwashed year after year after year after year, acting as if I needed some sort of conversion, or that somehow I was a sinner or whatever. An angelic person with angelic DNA is going to have a little bit different rules than a regular human being. Okay, what I mean by that is, I don't have any control over astral projection, but it happens. Okay, and apparently there's been some people who've been practicing astral projection because they feel as though, everything I do, or I have people try to, compete with me. Okay, so like I have astral projection, episodes, right? But I'm not somebody who can just go to sleep and close my eyes and then whiffed off to somewhere. Okay, so certain people who are learning to master astral projection. Okay, but see, these are the very things that people have been holding against me. Do you see what I'm saying? So we have weird this whole bullying thing that gets encouraged by the church, and then I've been ending up, suffering the consequences for things that I should have never, suffered for. So, the vindication of CB Berganza, my last incarnation, is a big deal only to people who go to church. Okay, to me, what that means is that, okay, well, maybe socially life will be a little bit better to where I don't have to struggle so much. Okay, I got tired of dealing with the attitudes of people, and they're now but it explains the attitude of people. It explains, why they were behaving in the way that they were, because I used to wonder, like, people were actually instructed to behave this way. Okay, whether that be through the cult of Christianity, which involved people like Rashawn or whatever, or they, just kind of heard things from church, and then because whether the information was good or bad about me, they decided because I was a highlighted person that they just wanted to somehow create some sort of competition. Okay, all I'm saying is when you're dealing with people in general, how you talk about an individual in public sector is important. You can create problems for people, so it's important that you know that, okay? Because throughout the centuries, or especially in my last, being Maria Gordon, okay, I would say that, people did not really utilize that skill. They had been constantly creating problems for me for forever. This is the life that I choose to live. Okay. And obviously, because I'm somebody who still has the gift of intuition, because I'm still somebody who has the ability to manifest things, this tells me that my relationship with the divine is a okay. Okay. But when it comes to the church, the church seemed to have thought that, there was something, I needed to, what they wanted me to do is to promote their faith, either one of those faiths, whether that be Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever, all within these Christian groups. I can never endorse organized religion. That's just, I feel like in my life, my life, okay, as this sort of DNA, I don't really like attachments. And a lot of this has to do with, being I mean, century after century of being who I am. I am so autonomous, as well as, I believe things strongly. I'm a strong believer in, what goes on around me, the divine. Okay. And we have completely different sets of or belief systems. Like we had this issue, the very fact that they were attacking me for being a single woman when I had every reason to be one. Okay. So it's like, just accept it for what it is. And I do believe people do accept it for what it is. And, I would like to live out the rest of my years in peace. And, hopefully I can make a difference, into the change of this world. Um, Now, I was thinking today also, as I was getting dressed, I kept thinking, what I miss? I liked Monday Merriment. I'm not going to bring Monday Merriment back, right? But see, the reason why people didn't like, take me seriously, because I know I was being intercepted by things like, uh, the Collins family, which burns me up, and also, former workmates and stuff like that. And what bothered me about that is I kept thinking, that really upset me because I wanted to present these projects. I wanted them to be taken seriously. And then we had this group of people who were sitting here critiquing my stuff. I found it very obnoxious and offensive. And so the reason why it was not going to be launched the way that I wanted to, or what I was not able to present it to people, or whatever, it was blocked, is because I did not want a relationship. See, this is this bullshit nonsense about forcing people into, kingdom spouses and all this other stuff. So, like, basically, you're saying that women cannot get any sort of acknowledgement for inventing something or promoting something or trying to do something for themselves. Okay. And when I created these sort of things, whether that be my Patreon account or the Monday Merriment and all these other sort of things, it's like the ideas come to my mind to create. Okay, so I don't sit here and think, well, I'm trying to burn bras. I'm trying to be, stand up for women's lib. I don't need a man. This has nothing to do with it. It's like I present. I want it taken seriously, and I want it moved. You know what I mean? And then this is why I do not want to work with religious people. I cannot deal with them. Okay. I can't, because it's always, well, if it's not a man behind it, well, then it just can't be taken seriously. You know what I mean? So the intuitive message I'm getting right now is that, okay, I am known for I am the successful writer known for the Blessings Quarterly newsletter. Okay. And I understand that, but I okay, I am now, right? But I want to be able to promote my stuff in the future. Okay. And I do not want to have this bullshit about, well, and hopefully, Vladimir will help me move these things. Okay. I think if I work with Vladimir Putin, we can become business partners in a way where it's not, uh, degrading. Okay. Because I will say, working with this particular group, the Collins family, or members of the Gordon clan or whatever, all these people who, now I see them with different eyes. I get it. The game's up. It's like I was adopted, and this was one of these weird MK Ultra things, and you guys aren't who I thought you were, and my mind is blown. Really, it's blown. Okay, but yeah, I would say that I feel confident that merging forces with this particular person is going to be beneficial for both of us. Why? Because I really admire him, okay? And I feel as though he has some sort of ethics that I could not see or, expect in, these greedy church people, okay? So anyway, the other message I have is that people have regarded me as selfish. Like I said, this is not about being selfish. Here's the thing, okay? There is I believe in advancing civilization. Okay. So I understand, like, there's been times throughout history where we did things maybe based on tradition or we did things impulsively or whatever. Okay. Once you understand that, there's a certain way of doing things that is going to create a better outcome. Okay. It is best, it's wise, okay, to take that route. Okay. Someone like me, it's absurd for somebody to think or expect me to follow a specific tradition. Why? Because apparently CB Braganza and all my incarnations never really had any roots. I never had any roots. Okay, I was, I was like with King David, and then they bounced me over here. I was Egypt, and then coming to the United States. I have been identified with Native American Indians and all this other stuff. It's like they put you willy nilly anywhere. Okay, also it's like I came my original place of I was a person. What makes me unique is I had a pre-existence in heaven. Okay, so that right there makes it so that I don't have roots. This is could very well be the reason why people used to say, "Oh, Maria's acting white," when in fact I'm just speaking proper English. Okay, the reason why is because. And the reason why I do not have like what they call racial biases or anything like that is because I come from heaven. Okay. The reason why I can sit here and try to psychoanalyze Nazis and not get too offended is because I come from heaven. I'm always trying to understand like people's, where they came from. Why do they have this point of view? What is it that they need? Why do, I'm very, concerned about, the root cause of why they behave the way that they do. And this is because I have angelic DNA. Okay. So anyway, all right. So no, it is not me being selfish. Let's just say, for example, my family, my ex family. Okay. Let's just say, for example, I had created something, and and I did not know or feel that this situation didn't exist. Like I wasn't adopted or was adopted. It doesn't matter. But I came from a good home. And everything was good, and my family did not plot against me, and they didn't create bullying situations or whatever. I would have definitely, merged forces with them and say, hey, I want to create some sort of family business, or at least hire people or something. I would have done something like that, of course, okay. But it's the exploitation. And the intuitive message I'm getting right now is whatever it is you want, you get. It's like because there's something about my personality that brings out these abnormal challenges in people. And the reason why is because I'm superior, meaning I'm an intellectual person, or I'm smarter, or I have better habits, or that right there. Okay, I strive to be, the best kind of person I can be. Okay, and it's not personal, but the people around me have always taken it personal. Okay, like, well, if I buy a particular jean brand, right? They'll be like, well, how come you pick those? And they might be somebody who's dedicated to wearing Levi's all the time, and they might think that, oh, I'm trying to be better because I didn't buy Levi's like them. And it's like, no, this appealed to my eye. Immediately, this is a decision I made. Okay, and then there's some decisions that I make. I have to really seriously think about it, and if it's for my best interest, I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm not obligated to consider other people. By the time I was 18 years old, my parents said, "You're on your own." So I had to make my own and carve my own path. Okay, and so when it comes to, so I don't owe them any obligations. I'm not obligated to them for anything. And then bringing it the issue of me being adopted, and with the fact that these people conspired against me, I definitely don't owe them anything. When it comes to the Collins, that's absurd in the first place. That whole thing about the Collins is absurd. All of it. Why? Because, we broke up. Bruce and I broke up years ago. Years ago. He ended up getting married. End of discussion. And see why was this tie forced? Is because we had this religious issue with people trying to, force us together to try to, make it seem like we were married or whatever. We were not married. Okay, legally, there's a defining, there's a definition of what is considered marriage here in the state of California. Okay, so I am not married to Bruce, and he is not my business partner. Okay, the intuitive message I'm getting is all is well, and I should stay in the present moment. I need to keep my mind open. I'm trying to. Okay, like I said, the only person I have to respond, I'm responsible for, is myself. Okay, now when a person is over the age of 18, like in this case, my son is 32 years old. Okay, he's old enough to take care of himself. Okay, I personally feel as though life is nothing but hell here. Okay, and we know why it's hell here. Okay, and I wish, I had always wanted to make it so that my son would never have to toil, to be mistreated in the workplace, to be bounced around, to have, his life thrown up in the air and people trivializing his stuff, causing it all kinds of problems like they did for me. Okay, so I always try to like worry. I was always like, I wish I had, like, if I have a life insurance policy, I did have one. I kept thinking it wasn't enough, but I kept thinking at least give him something. You know what I mean? These people never allowed me to do the things that I had rightfully deserved to do. Okay, and the reason why is because, oh, she's a clone. What in their mind made them think that just because I was a clone that I didn't deserve anything? And then the intuitive message I'm getting is that my art is powerful, and I guess what they're referring to, not necessarily like my art, but they're talking about my writings, my discoveries, my research. Okay, is what is interesting to them. Okay, what anyway, I'm saying is that yeah, I wanted better for my child. Okay, and I feel as though and that these people deprived me of that. You know what I mean? And they acted as if, if I made this sort of plan, they wanted me to say, like I'm supposed to have some sort. What these people did was highly racist, and I cannot forgive it. So, and this trickles down to all the people that were umbrellaed into this little network of these people. Okay. And what these people did was so offensive to me, so disgusting and so disturbing that yes, find it very offensive that they would have someone else who has contacted me a few months ago to try to contact me again. So I will ask my son. I do believe that my son knows who these people are. He's not going to tell me any of that because he's been instructed not to, and he doesn't want to deal with it. Okay, because quite frankly, now that he understands what's really going on and what these people were really trying to do, I do believe that he has a lot of mental problems because of it. Okay, and he's been handling it very well. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is that my son is in good standing and he's fine, and I'm glad. Okay, but still, these people, it bothers me to see that this Alyssa girl is still working at her job. Okay, and I know that people read my publication. They do read my publication. Okay, so I don't need any more trace of these people existing in my face. Okay, so I will decide. I will talk to Houston and ask him. Do you think I should complete this? I mean, this is $1,000 knocked off the balance. Okay, but at the same time, these people should erase the balance completely. And the reason why they will not erase it is because of my lifestyle. They still want to like hold this little issue, right? They always do this, but they know that the message I'm getting right now is that they understand that I'm somebody who does have to work for a living. Okay, and I am also somebody who has honestly worked for a living. Like, I never sat here and asked people to hand me anything or anything. I've always worked hard. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is why I do not like interacting with other people, and I do not like merging forces with people willy nilly. Okay, like, I'm very careful about who comes into my life, and I do not like people involving me in their issues. Okay, now these people screwed up everything that I had in my life. Okay, and then they want to half ass their compensation. Okay, I'm disgusted with these people, disgusted. So, and then they end up bringing, having this old representative who was a part of the network contact me. This is what I'm talking about. People need to understand how to deal with sensitive information. This is very triggering to somebody who has been a victim of human trafficking, knowing good and well Alyssa is a part of that trafficking network. I do not want to see anyone that I had to deal with, indirectly or directly. Okay? So no, I do not want to communicate with this person or fill out her application or have to be re-traumatized. Do you guys understand what you did? Okay, you openly admitted that you were trying to murder me in this community. Okay, and you did so through these representatives. Okay, I do not want to see these people. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is that all things that do not serve me get returned to sender. Also, Okay, I do want to thank the Lancaster Masons as well as the Bakersfield Masons. I think people do understand that I did win the battle of here on heaven and earth throughout my existences. That's plural. Okay, throughout my existences, I understand that I am a very unique spiritual being. Okay, and I don't know if you've ever heard of this little story. It's called the Littlest Angel or something. I don't know, but it kind of reminds me of this of who I am. Okay, I mean, I'm different. I'm different. You know what I mean? When I was in heaven and when I'm on earth, it's like, I'm different. I was blessed with different skills, okay? And, it is what it is, okay? But I do think it's important to know that if we carry grudges here on earth, it just goes with you in the afterlife, okay? So it's important to make peace with this issue. And I do appreciate the people who were on this earth at my time. I'm getting cold right now because there's people, there's spirits and stuff surrounding me. But what I'm saying is that um, what if you go into the afterlife with grudges and stuff like that, it continues on. It continues on. So there were people here, that I had dealt with on Earth who were attacking me because I bring out challenges in people because of my superiority. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Because if I say something or if I fix something, I'm even trying to be nice. I might fix something for a neighbor, right? And they're like, who does she think she is? She can do that. And then it can trigger things off in people's mind. You know what I mean? So I literally have to walk on eggshells sometimes with people. Okay. And just, people can get triggered just because I'm an intelligent person. And I was talking about, people who want their kids to be smart and stuff like that. I understand you want your kid to be smart, okay? But you need to understand that there's a side to that. There is a side to that, okay? It's like when you're a smart person, you would think, oh, that means that it's made in the shade. I will say people want to compete with you in the workplace more than anything, okay? So that creates a problem. That creates a problem. And they will do so unfairly, just like these people did here, okay? So anyway, yes, I'm very grateful that there is peace on heaven and earth, and I do want to do my best to to bring about positive changes for the new world order. Because when I think about it, yeah, this does fulfill a Bible prophecy. We know who we are now. We know who we are now. Okay, for centuries, people were in the dark about all of this stuff, not being able to connect the dots. This is what it is. We've been cloned. We've been like coming back all these different years, and yes, this religion is responsible for it. Okay, so anyway, the other message I was getting has a lot to do with me and my son being free to live however we want to. Okay. And I know that the Collins were doing what they were trying to do to try to prevent that. I'm offended by this because this seems to be steeped very much in racism. Okay. It does seem to be that. It seems to be steeped in religious whatever. Okay. We are both over the age of 18. Okay, and to try to do that to two human beings or any human being in general is it's meant to be very abusive. Okay, and I seriously resent it, but I do get the intuitive message now. It is understood that we are allowed to live as free as we want to. You should have never interfered with us in the first place. Okay, I do get the intuitive message that now what does that mean? Like I know people are something about my art. Okay, so I do understand that my story is being trended, and I know it seems to be okay. And like I said, I don't ever see stories about myself, okay? Because I understand, like I said, just like I said, they could configure the computer systems to make it so that I do not get SNAP benefits where everyone else does, and they can also configure things to where I don't see these stories about myself, okay? But I think what's being talked about right now is that this issue relating to the Christian church and how people are starting to understand that they have been the problem for many, many years, bringing their religion into, business issues, employment issues in places where it doesn't belong. Okay, I would say that the majority of these targeted individuals are targeted low key by their religious institutions or religious institutions in general. Okay, whereas they really shouldn't even be dealing with this. Okay, we do have freedom of religion. So how is it that this happens? Is because these Christian groups, and I'm calling them Christian groups because like I said, these could be, I personally say it's a cult. It's a cult. These cult groups, okay, get together and they formulate and they are targeting trying to eliminate the kind of people who should be at the top. These people should be at the top. I notice that a lot of the targeted individuals that are targeted are usually people who are good in their jobs, okay, or people who take pride in their appearance. You know, I had talked about this one lady. She was a science person. I think she was like an engineer or something like that. She was extremely attractive, okay, and she was somebody who was trying to build her life, okay. She wanted to get her career straight. She wanted to make sure that she was good looking enough to attract somebody. She was young, okay, she was young. And so we have these people who want to tear her into her and all this sort of stuff, okay. So what really society, it's like a flip around. We need to flip society around, okay, because we need to get rid of the unmotivated people. We need to get rid of the people who want to be cutthroat. We need to get rid of people who have secret genocide agendas. We need to get rid of these people and bring in the people who are truly professional, people who are professional in word, deed, and action, okay. That's what needs, and these are the targeted individuals I'm talking about, okay. And the intuitive message I'm getting right now is that yes, Christianity is a lie. And I hate to say that, right? Because I've always tried to be very low key about how I felt about my experiences with Christianity, and I felt as though I should have moved on. But now, when you find out that this is something that was presented to you, and then the hypocrisy of it, what makes it even worse is the fact that number one, Bruce never got baptized. He was never baptized, okay? And generally, Jehovah's Witnesses don't really acknowledge, inactive publishers. He was just a publisher, meaning like he was somebody who he didn't even really actively go door to door. There was a time where he just, he's just a Jehovah's Witness because they thought that he could ride on my coattails or somehow gain some sort of something, some sort of ownership of what I did. Okay, whatever the case is, these people, I'm moving on. Okay, so this person, Alyssa or whatever, I don't want to communicate with these people. Okay, use tact and consideration when you're dealing with people who have been victimized by things like human trafficking. Okay, I don't want to see your face. I do not want to communicate with you. I do not want to sit here and take any time filling out your application, right? Knowing and having to think about all these people who are always been defrauding me. And it actually pisses me off that she contacted me in the first place. And the reason why I think she may have contacted me in the first place is because she may have been influenced by the Masonic Temple, who has been doing some really, good jobs. So the intuitive message I'm getting right now is whatever I want, I get, of course. Okay? And this is the issue. It's like these people wanted to challenge me just because. You know what I mean? And see what people don't. You know how like when you were with your mom, hopefully you had this issue with your parents, right? When your parents were telling you don't stare at people, don't point at people, always be polite. These things are done for a reason because there are certain people who exist in society, such as myself, okay, and some people, and that because I am not ashamed of who I am. I understand I'm a superior person, meaning like I'm somebody who cares about how things should be in a certain order, okay, and I'm somebody who lives that way, and that's how it is, okay, because to go backwards is like it's like a demotion in life, okay, so it's stupid to ask somebody to could you like not could you like reduce your shine, could you not, no, because these are the things you're supposed to to try to aspire to. That's absurd, okay. So we have people who are of lower class, and we have people who are a higher class, and when we deal with people or we interact with them, how we interact with them is by being polite. So if they say hello, then you should say hello. If you do something, if you damage something of theirs, you're not supposed to sit here. And this is why a lot of people do not respect people like this. Like I don't respect Christians for this issue. Like they honestly, Terry really had this idea that she was entitled to things just because she was a Christian. Okay, that is a serious mental illness. Okay, and that mindset could influence people to create all kinds of crimes. What Terry did was a crime. Okay, the gang stalking, the blacklisting, the manipulation. Speaking on my behalf. I don't have any sort of connection with her. The intuitive message I'm getting right now is that there are positive vibes in Bakersfield, and that people want me and Vladimir Putin to be business partners, and that my son is proud of me. That's nice. and that people know that I do not want, to have any sort of deep relationships with people here in the community, but I want to be polite. Okay, I do want to be polite with you, and you should understand the severity of this issue. Okay, the intuitive message I'm getting right now is like people are like, wow, they're impressed with me. And also I'm getting this intuitive message that people are acknowledging the fact that yes, I should stay weird. I am who I am. Okay, that's just like you having an autistic kid and trying to beat the autism out of them. And no, I am not autistic. I know people would like to say that. But yeah, I think the reason why they say that is because there has been times where people have gone through great lengths to try to annoy me. Even when Alita got in my face and she put her butt in my face, right? She was trying to do this sort of stuff, and I was ignoring her. Okay, I wasn't going to give her any sort of like, acknowledgement. I just ignore her. Also, I have a philosophy. I should not sit here and give you any sort of acknowledgement or respect if you exhibited that sort of behavior with me. Okay, I'm not going to play into it. I know not to waste my time. I am not autistic in any way. Okay, and no, I do not have ADHD or any of that sort of stuff. Okay, what I dealt with was severe bullying in the workplace, in my school. They would prevent me from, if I ever wanted to communicate or whatever, they would intimidate me. And yes, I stuttered for many years. I had speech impediments when I was growing up. And sometimes they still come back, especially if I feel like, I'm losing interest in a conversation or whatever. I'm like, I'm lost for words or whatever. That can happen. But I know that I struggled a lot. Why? Because I had extreme bullying in my life. Okay. So just like, when I had problems when I was growing up, all of that stuff, everything, okay, my slow progression throughout life can all be traced to my severe bullying. Okay. And then that wasn't enough when it was going on in the Antelope Valley. They had to bring it here in Bakersfield. Okay. I had mentioned that, this sort of the way that people conduct business should seriously be looked at. These women who were involved in my targeting, they are not professional. Okay, well, we have these sort of individuals. Alyssa should have been removed if she was, and I do believe that she was a part of this this trafficking program. Okay, she should have been removed from her position. If CPAC as an organization was acting on the behalf of Terry Collins or maybe the Air 949 person or whatever, then they should have replaced the entire staff. Okay, if who there should be organizations who audit certain facilities, government. Whether I don't know if CPAC is government or it could be like private funded. I don't know. I've never researched it. Okay, but there should be auditing for things like that. Okay, how do we prevent these sort of human trafficking issues from going on in the future? Well, number one, we should do auditing. There should be auditing. Okay, supervisors should be auditing, emails, information from these particular employees. Also, they should be doing things like, replacing employees. Okay, the people who are guilty should be removed. They should be bringing in better employees, and then they should also be making better training manuals and setting the rules and stipulations as to what kind of conduct is acceptable and what is not. Okay, and I will tell you, gang stalking activity is not acceptable. Okay, why? Because it damages a reputation. Okay, this is basically open admission. We participate in genocide. Okay, we do not respect your privacy. We will throw out your customer names. We will disrespect our customers. We will, basically work against them on their behalf. It's basically saying that these are underground crime syndicates, and they're admitting it. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, do you want your name in their data bank? Do you want to work with companies like this? Okay, think about that. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. Human trafficking has been swept under the rug for entirely too long. Okay, and this is where it starts. It starts with groups of people, interconnected networks, people who have these certain agendas who want to do these sort of things underground. Okay, and it needs to stop. So the intuitive message I'm getting right now is that people are talking about how Vladimir and I don't want to call him Vladimir by his first name. I don't want to disrespect him. President Putin and I both have similar things in common. Like, we're single. We probably just dealt with garbage. We dealt with garbage. Okay? When you've dealt with people who feel entitled to bully you, or you dealt with people who feel like they cross the line with you. Okay? And you get to a point where you can no longer even respect them at all. It's impossible to. Okay, it's impossible for me to sit here and respect the person. Like, for example, the Walmart greeter. A couple days ago, I went back to Walmart, right, and he said good morning, right, but there was something about, and I knew, like, I should, I think I said good morning or something like that, but deep down inside, I wish he would just disappear. That's I'm telling you the truth. Why? Because this was a serious issue. Okay, and the reason why he was rolling his eyes over at to the other employee is because he knew what was going on. You know what I mean? And he was still willing to disrespect me in the slightest way. If he really was concerned about all the trauma that I went through, he would have made those sort of accommodations. So when I look at this person, I just wish he was gone. The intuitive message I get is everything is amazing according to what's going on right now in the vibe. So I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so right now the Bakersfield community is celebrating my place in commerce. Okay, President Trump is now relieved from all sorts of responsibility relating to this issue and guilt from the public eye. All is peaceful, calm, and moving in a positive direction. Also, apparently people are projecting that I'm supposed to get some sort of upgrade. Anyway, and the whole whatever I want, I get. People are the message I'm getting is that yes, people do understand. I am someone who is exactly what I'm saying is I trigger people to compete against me naturally, even if I'm just sitting there. You know why? Because I come with number one a reputation from the church, okay, as well as what recently just happened. Okay, so with all of these sort of combinations, this is what created the problem. Okay, and I can't overlook that. Okay, I cannot overlook that. So I can be, I can offer being polite. You know what I mean? And I don't hate anybody specifically, but I just, it shouldn't be. It should be understood. Okay, it should be totally understood. Okay, so anyway, yes, that sort of behavior is dangerous to society. Okay, and I think hopefully, people understand that now. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is that I was right, and I proved everyone wrong. Okay, like I said, I understand laws, I respect laws. You know what I mean? And I grew up with a secular upbringing, meaning like bringing referencing the law. So you're wondering how is it that I was raised in the same house with these other three people, right? We were all raised with secular law. So how is it that these people they didn't care? They didn't care, and Christianity invaded their minds. Just like these people, these lawyers here, right? These lawyers, I'm sure good and well, right, that when they went into law, they were studying. They knew good and well that this was wrong. What happened? Christianity took over. Okay, never mind being fair and just. Never mind what all of that says. Okay, and ignoring the law. The laws are written for reasons, right? But if when it's basically saying that if you do not adhere to this, okay, some sort of catastrophe is definitely going to happen. Okay, it's the truth. So anyway, so yeah, the other message I'm getting is that I am somebody who made the Soul Tribe. I woke up the Soul Tribe. You know what I mean? I was somebody who was let them know that and realize about their life. They're being a part of this underground crime syndicate, the adoption, this is what happened. This is where we are. I'm very proud of my research, okay? And I think this is what a lot of people wanted to associate me with me. They want like the Collins wanted to associate with me because I'm somebody who has the gift of understanding alchemy. I'm an angel basically. And then she also wanted to associate with me because of my creations and stuff like that. Right now, I'm sharing my creations with Vladimir Putin, and I'm also, of course, letting the White House have my be keep my like YouTube. They can funnel my YouTube and all this other stuff. Just I feel as though that's fair. You know what I mean? And of course, the British family, whatever they can get, I guess, whatever, whatever. You know what I mean? But I'm saying is, I understand that what I am a representative of paranormal activity. Okay, so anytime you are somebody who you are going to be of interest and possibly very well watched by people like the FBI, the government, the president, people are going to be looking at you, right? Because they're what the main concern is like, are you a public, are you going to cause some sort of public problem? Like, am I going to cause destruction? The only destruction I got that happened is what people projected towards me. Okay, and I have the right to pray. I have the right to protect myself. So it goes right back to center. Okay, I care about peace on earth. Seriously, I am somebody who, and I chisel situations down. Like, what exactly causes social eruption? I'm somebody who likes to get into, like, the foundation of what it is that causes people discomfort, unhappiness, or whatever, and it's those things, and it gets accumulated on an individual basis. So this is why I'm saying is, like, when it comes to peace is never going to be happening on a wide scale unless other people on an individual level get their crap together. So, like, for example, I brought up the subject of me dealing with women who were bullying me, right? And I talked about the unspoken, the unspoken truth. Okay, the spoken truth is that we're supposed to take care of ourselves to the best of our abilities. It's our way of advertising who we are. Like, it allows us to match with people who are our same vibration. It allows us to match to people with our philosophy, our specific ideals. Okay, and so when you have people who women have normalized bullying to the point of where I feel as though spiritually this issue, as horrible as it was, it had to happen because this is a topic that a lot of people are afraid and uncomfortable about talking about, right? And because society makes it that way, right? And I know for some women will sit there and try. I mentioned how women who are unhappy with themselves often use the excuse of religion to try to make it seem like it's a noble thing or a moral thing, okay, when in fact it's not, okay? So people need to start dealing with themselves. They need to start looking at themselves and making the necessary changes if they're willing to do so. If not, stay yourself in a corner and know the law, okay? Stop harassing people. Okay, so what we need is we need a better justice system. We need, and everything is written for our protection. When people harass you, like things like sexual harassment, or people community harassment, these sort of things, there's laws for that, stalking and all this other stuff, to make use of law. Their laws are already written. Okay, what we need is we need Christianity to know its place. Okay, we need Christianity to know its place. Okay, we need people who are going to not only enact the law, we need to do it quickly. Okay, no more, this brain fog. That goes all the way down to emergency services with people answering the phone like, or like nonchalant. I almost thought that dude was smoking weed while he was at the job. Okay, and like I said, I know people look at me. I do smoke weed. I'm not ashamed of that, and I will never be ashamed of that. Okay, but I am somebody who knows how to work. Okay, it doesn't prevent me from doing my work, and I prefer to kind of take that issue and keep it private. You know what I mean? And it should be considered private. Okay, and it's not something that can be used against me in a court of law. Okay, so anyway, so yes, I am the owner of the newsletter, and uh, I know that the creations that I had made before, it's very disappointing because, I wanted them to be noticed by people. You know what I mean? People who were higher ups, and I do know people have noticed them. I want to make the best use of the things that I do. You know what I mean? And I want feedback. You know what I mean? Of course I want feedback. I want people to say, "Hey, Maria, you did good. I mean, I like that." Or, have questions. I like people engaging me in this sort of work, okay? But they prevented that with their childish, "Don't talk to her," or, "If she puts her picture on there, we're not going to do this," and all this other stuff, okay? As if they should have been a part of my little committee in the first place. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I would say Christian arrogance is something that needs to be put in check. It really does, okay? And I understand that they like to set stipulations and stuff like that as far as what, my soul tribe can do. Like, well, I don't know. The whole thing about telling President Trump, and I don't know why I think this, okay? But, like, I don't know why I thought that President Trump was not allowed to have a car. Now, maybe when he's president, it's for safety protection or whatever, but I'm hoping that all these other people are able to they deserve to have a life. Okay. I mean, when I think about, I expect them to have vehicles. I expect them to have all the things that they are entitled to have as a human being. Okay. That was brought here to this world against their will. Okay. So, Stop acting like you're in charge of stuff, okay? Like I said, the president is the president for a reason, okay? So, it's like sometimes I feel as though Christians are very disrespectful, okay? And the message I'm getting about something about me not having relationships. Okay, so yes, the community understands. They do understand why I do not wish to have relationships, okay? And like I said, it's not about keeping the argument going. It's just that, like when I see something sweet and innocent, I immediately lighten up. I immediately start smiling and want to get closer to it, right? But you immediately become repelled by something that tried to kill you. You know what I mean? This is what I'm saying. Okay, so understand the sensitivity of this issue. Okay, so going forward, I don't expect to get communicated by any sort of communication by people who were a part of this group. Okay, now I understand this community is only so big. I might end up working for another company or whatever that might know these people. Okay, and I know I've dealt with situations in the past where they want to sit here and create side conversations, like maybe based on the last job that I was. Like, although I might say something like, "Oh, I like your hair," and it's like knowing good and well that these people caused problems with my hair in the last time. Okay, I don't want to hear that. I don't. Okay, it's like zip it. Okay, I get treated like a human being. I get treated with respect that I deserve. Okay. I get tired of people trying to take their little digs and their jips. And see, I look at Alyssa communicating with me, offering me, we'll pay half of the balance. Like I'm responsible for the half of it. No, I mean, like I'm responsible for half of the argument that got created. No, I am not. Okay. How about you pay all of it? Anyway, Democrats, Republicans, and anything in between all approve of me. I'm very grateful. You know what I mean? I think the world should be made into a better place without this hamster wheel type garbage. You know what I mean? I feel this is what, well, anyway, something's going on next door. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I would say the hamster wheel of life in the workplace, has been very draining for many people, very disappointing. Very disappointing. I mean, when you think about the energy that people put into and I'm not just talking about me, but like a lot of people put a lot of energy, a lot of money into it, hopes and dreams, only to come to a place that has just literally ruined you. You know what I mean? Bad management and the harassment that goes on in the workplace has made it absolutely impossible for anybody to have any sort of longevity in the workplace. Where people have at work for years and years and years and years and expect to retire from it. You know what I mean? It's been a nightmare. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is what I'm telling people that needs to be improved. Okay, and hopefully, you know, um, we'll see some changes. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. And I was thinking, hang on a second. I'm glad they understand that. I want to thank the people who do support me. And I hope that going forward, people understand how to deal with sensitive issues. Okay, this is a sensitive issue. You know what I mean? I'm somebody who dealt with some, basically a public murder plot by sick, twisted people, and I do not want to have that sort of communication. And it should be understood. Okay, and I think by putting it that way, I hope it's understood. Okay. So the intuitive message I'm getting right now is that I possess divine truth. Yes, it's understood. I am at peace with all religions. I'm grateful. Okay, I'm going to wrap this video up, and I'll be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye-bye.